One, a quarterback that is easy to fall in love with, Fernando Mendoza.
Are you in love with him?
I think he's a very, very good quarterback who is worthy of the number one selection. The conversation here is there are certainly limitations to his game, but if I was to rank him amongst quarterbacks who have been taken in the last 5 years, I would certainly have Caleb Williams ahead of him. I would certainly have Trevor Lawrence ahead of him, and I would certainly have Drake May ahead of him. I think there's conversations to be had whether he's the next guy, though. I like him much better than I do Cam Ward.
Okay.
The That's not even a conversation to me. I'm not. Even when you go back and you can watch that episode, I wasn't a massive fan of Cam Ward then. That he was ranked in like between. I can't remember the exact number between. He was in the 20s anyway on my big board. I wasn't a huge Cam Ward fan. He was quite clearly the quarterback one there, but if he was in this class, I would certainly have Mendoza ahead of him. The Kenny Pickett draft you can just write off. That Jaden Daniels, look, he's been very good in the NFL, but as a prospect coming out, I certainly had concerns over his durability. Um, yeah, I think he would probably be fourth on that list.
I really like him. I just haven't fallen in love yet.
And that's fair.
And that's no decrying Fernando Mendoza. Yes, I think certainly in this draft, he is worthy of a number one pick,
Mm-hmm.
and I think for the team that are picking number one, he's definitely worth a number one pick. Because how often do you get the opportunity to make a number one pick that you feel, yeah, I think we've done all right there.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen very often. The Raiders haven't been great for a long time, but they've not had the number one pick.
Mm-hmm.
They've not been, so it doesn't cut unless you're Cleveland, who've had a few in the past few
Yeah.
years. It doesn't come around that very much often. So I think you really have to jump on it when you've got the chance, when you feel comfortable with him. I mean, there's an awful lot to like with him. Um, I think that his processing is quite advanced for a prospect coming out. He's got really good ball placement. I think that's a good strength of his. He's got touch on that back shoulder throws. He anticipates into tight windows. He's got enough arm talent to cover the full field. Um, Modern NFL, he operates the RPO game really well. I think that's something that we see more and more coming into the NFL from the college game. Um, can pick up first downs with his legs, so he's a functional enough athlete. I don't think he's a special runner or anything at all, but he can do more than enough. He's tough in the pocket. He's willing to stand and deliver on time. He protects the football really well. Only 6 interceptions on 379 passes last year. Played really well in the big games. He's led a program to a national championship with a 16-0 record. Heisman Trophy winner. He's got all the credentials. Um, I think that he was definitely in a real scheme that created a lot of completions for
Yeah.
him, with good wide receivers. So that's a question. He had to make those throws. He had to deal with it, but it's something that I think is just going to linger about there. He doesn't move defenders hugely well with his eyes, I don't think yet, but I think it's something that can come. And when he gets flushed from the pocket, his footwork can get a little bit trickier, which can affect him on off-platform throws. Um, he's not the most dynamic of scramblers, and I think that he's not the most he's not the most flashy and the most creative of quarterbacks. But I think if you put him in the right spot in the right situation, timing, play action, quick game concept, I think he can execute all those at a very, very high level. Um, will he ever become a top five NFL quarterback? I have a bit of questions about that. Will he be a functional? Will he be a successful NFL quarterback? I think so.
Yeah. I think that's the way to phrase it actually, because in terms of to come back at you on a couple of bits there, that he turned it on when it mattered. That I completely know
Yeah,
what you're saying about not being able to lead um, receivers open when I'm trying to, with his eyes, manipulate defenses. But when the game was on the line, he made
made
the
it brilliant.
plays when it mattered. oh my God, does he have a set of balls on him? He took shot after shot, and he
Mm.
still came back. And when the game was on the line, he's able to make the plays to seal the wins. And I think the leadership he'll bring to the Raiders, both on and off the field, that he's got the right mentality to be under centre, make the plays when it matters, and almost call out his teammates when he needs to, in terms of being able to look. We should be winning these games. The Raiders need someone who knows how to win. They need someone who can win games, and Fernando Mendoza has shown time and time again that he can do that. And then off the field, that's the type of personality you want. That isn't flashy, but he will set an example every day when he goes into training. Um, how, in terms of the notes, if I should go through them, that I think he's a mentally composed, rhythm controlled quarterback with franchise defining, franchise level processing, anticipation, and leadership traits who project as a long term NFL starter. High level process, as I just said, pre and post snap his command, wins with anticipation, he has control over the structure, he has clarity in his decision making. Yes, his physical traits are sufficient, is the word that I used, but that mental makeup that he has really drives that ceiling higher than it maybe should be. His athletic traits say it should be. He's 6'4", 236 pounds. Great processing speed, diagnoses coverages and leverage immediately. Consistently arrives at the correct answer in his decision making without any wasted movement or hesitation. Releases the balls before windows fully materialise and shows advanced trust in his routes and his receivers. It was able to manipulate protections actively as well pre-snap. Identifies pressure indicators, stands tall in the pocket with that 6'4" frame, senses edge and interior pressure, and has just enough movement and mobility to escape and make things happen. I think he's a better runner than he's maybe given credit for. Although, say, he's not flashy, he's just, he's not necessarily someone you want doing designed runs, but has more than enough athleticism to get the kind of 10-yard gains if the play breaks down when need to. Almost like a Matt Ryan-esque quarterback is what I see with Fernando
Mm.
Mendoza. And that's
Yeah.
probably the comp that I would have for him, although I don't really like doing comparisons. That's kind of, I think that's the type of player you're getting here. His mechanics are compact, to say, and then he's clean, delivering the football, commands in the huddle, responds positively to adversity, has composure in high leverage moments. He's a clear tone setter on and off the field, and I think his intelligence is just, and his preparation's evident in every game, that he anticipates defensive counters. He knows what defenses are going to do because he studied the tape. That he's playing chess almost, because he's anticipating all the time. He's adjusting to what he needs to because he sees it. Weaknesses for him: his arm talent is functional rather than overpowering. He doesn't have the elasticity. There's the word that's being bounded around at the moment. He doesn't have the ability to throw from all sorts of different angles, and he relies on the timing of his mechanics and the anticipation rather than being a pure velocity thrower. And being like explosive with his arm talent, but he just doesn't need to be that. His mobility is adequate, but not necessarily dynamic. But I don't think either of those limitations prevents him being a high-level NFL player, given how consistently he wins pre-snap and on schedule. The one concern that I have is that he will have to adapt to be able to play under center in the NFL. Look at what Kubiak did with Sam Darnold at the Seahawks last year. Darnold played under center 33% of the time in 2025. And that's obviously in Kubiak's system, who's now the head coach in Las Vegas. Mendoza only has 5 dropbacks from under center his entire college career. So that's something that he's going to have to learn with. But luckily, he's already training under Brian Griese, who's instilling that Raiders Kubiak playbook into Mendoza in this pre-draft process. Griese was with Kubiak at the 49ers on their coaching staff in 2023, and the Raiders are using him as almost a de facto trainer to get Mendoza ready to be in there. So he's already been drafted pretty much. He's on the calls and the time of being taken to instill what they're expecting from him already. He'll be familiar with the verbiage. He'll be familiar with the offensive concepts that are going to be expected in the Kubiak system. So I think does he play day one with Kirk Cousins there now? probably not. There's no reason to rush him. He can wait 4 or 5 games. I'm not a massive fan of playing them from game one, just because it's such a big jump from the college to the NFL level, despite all the games that Mendoza's played in. But just being able to take a couple of games to understand pre-game and the locker room, how just putting everything together, and then the game they you put them into, they're completely ready to go. They're not necessarily overwhelmed, although I'm sure Mendoza's not the type of prospect to be. But I don't. I certainly would advocate for him sitting a couple of games, especially with Kirk Cousins there. I think Kirk Cousins knows what he is at this point in the career, and will be a good mentor for Mendoza. And say that's that between whether it's talk about Atlanta quarterbacks in terms of Matt Ryan and Kirk Cousins, but those two names are the type of quarterback that Fernando Mendoza is going to be. So he's, what a pro to be learning behind. So yeah, I would be. I don't know what you think, Stu. I would be playing Kirk Cousins if able to, at least for a couple of games, while Fernando Mendoza just gets completely up to speed. But yeah, I think probably after unless they're on a roll with Cousins in the centre, you see Mendoza starting by say week 6. But I would certainly advocate for him maybe sitting for a couple of games at the start of the season.
Yeah, I think I maybe sound like I'm a Mendoza hater, and I'm definitely
No, no.
not. I do really like him. I think he's just a slow burner for me.
Mm, yeah,
I
it's because
haven't
he doesn't have
really.
this great athletic thing. You
Yeah,
don't put on
maybe
the
it is.
tape and go,
Just
"This is a number one overall pick." But
yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah, he hasn't quite stoked that
yeah,
fires of excitement yet. But if in a we were talking about things in a couple of years, and I think Fernando Mendoza is a great quarterback. I won't be surprised
yeah,
by any stretch of imagination, because I do think there's a really good prospect in there. And maybe it's just, I don't know, is it just that excitement fact? Is it maybe a bit of, we've known he's going to be number one since
mm-hmm,
the end of the season?
yeah,
Have I got a little bit of fatigue? He's clearly the number one quarterback in this class. I don't think there's any debate from me. I think he's miles ahead of where Ty Simpson is at the moment. I think that gap is huge. Um, where would I rank him in other years? I don't know. I would have to go through and rank them all properly. Um, I think he's just a slow burner for me. I just don't. I'm not going to anoint him the
yeah,
greatest quarterback I've ever seen in my life, but I'm not going to say he's terrible either. I think he's well, well, well worthy of the number one pick. Just don't make us wait the full now 8 minutes on
yeah.
a week Thursday.
Yeah, and I suppose that I do agree with something that say I do think he's a really good prospect, and it seems like I'm more excited about him than you are. But I certainly think maybe because the conversation there hasn't really been a conversation about who's going to be the number one
Yeah,
overall pick. That I don't know if there's unrealistic expectations on his shoulders going into his rookie season. That it's not like
yeah,
we've had the conversations being like, this guy's going to be the next whatever, like we have with whether it was Caleb Williams and there's comparisons to Patrick Mahomes, or there just hasn't been that with
mhm,
Fernando Mendoza. So that might actually be a good thing for him and for the Raiders going into the 2026 season. That I don't think there's these stupid expectations on his
mhm.
shoulders. Look, he's expected to be good. He's the number one overall pick. That if you're a number one overall pick, you're expected to be good. But I'm not hearing conversations about we're expecting him to be the best quarterback in the NFL in 3 years' time, like there was with Trevor Lawrence and with Caleb Williams. Because I
Yeah.
don't think we're talking about a different tier of quarterback there, aren't we? Um,
Yeah, and I think that, as you rightly say, long term for him, I think that's not a bad thing, and I think that the Raiders are trying to put him in a good position as
yeah,
well. They have brought in a veteran, someone that knows how to operate an NFL offense.
yeah,
That they don't, if all goes well, they don't have to rush him, and they do have connections with greatest of all time.
yeah,
He knows, you know, and I don't, Tom Brady's not going to be sitting with him all day, every day, coaching him and how to be a quarterback. But there is that influence there
mm-hmm,
that he knows what, preparation, if nothing else.
yeah,
Tom Brady was an elite preparer for everything. He was always, um, keyed in on what was happening, made sure he was prepared, made sure he was in the best physical condition he could be for a long, long time. And those kind of things will be filtered down through that organization to Mendoza as well.
Yeah.
I think they are going to try and put him in as good a position as they can to make him succeed as well.
Yeah, I think Mendoza's mature enough to heed that advice as well. There'd be some quarterbacks
Mhm.
coming out where they'd be like, "No, I'm going to do this my way." I don't get that sense from Mendoza at all. I think anything that that any veteran is going to say to Fernando Mendoza, he's going to take it on board. He seems like a mature, humble, responsible guy. That's how he comes
Yeah,
across on the field and off the field as well. But he has the balls and he has the leadership and he has the maturity to take a team on his back. Um, so when I say humble, I don't mean in terms of he's kind of in the shadows. I don't think he's gonna be that, but he has kind of the sense and self awareness to know what he has to do to be great.
yeah, and I think that as well that maturity, leadership. I think he is that kind of quarterback that knows that he doesn't have to be the best quarterback in the NFL and dazzle everybody by Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
If he sits and learns and listens and takes everything on board and uses what he's already got, I think he's mature enough to know and understand that I'm going to be a player who's going to be in this league 10, 15 years. I don't have to rush it all and do it all tomorrow.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely, totally agree. That was a really good conversation on Mendoza there, actually. I think spent about 20 minutes on Fernando Mendoza
Yeah.
there, but I think it was a really good conversation and way to sum up what's happened in the pre-draft process.